guys, it's Nick the Booksmith. Welcome back, welcome back. As the subject of junk journals has picked up steam lately, I've been getting a lot of questions about what the differences are between a traditionally classic bound book and one that is bound like a junk journal, scrapbook, art journal, that kind of thing. So I thought I would take the time today to have a brief overview of what those differences are. If you go to someone that has just been classically trained in bookbinding and ask them what the differences are between a standard book and a junk journal, they're probably going to give you a sideways glance and not know exactly what you're talking about. But here's where my dizzying and confusing combination of obscure skills becomes relevant. Yes, because I have delved into both genres. So I will briefly go over the differences between the two and why those differences are there, why they are so important, and maybe that will help answer some of those questions. My hair doesn't so much need a haircut as it does an intervention or an exorcism. Okay, so if we're going to be talking about binding books, let's first tackle the traditionally bound book like these. If we're talking about a sewn binding, not a glued or a perfect binding, a sewn binding, the signatures are folded and holes are poked into the spine so that all the signatures match, and the signatures are sewn together to become a text block. That text block is then reinforced and glued over that stitching on the spine before it is inserted into a book cover. So if you look at the top view of a traditionally bound book, and these were both sewn and then bound into a cover, you can see that they have a similar width from spine to foredge. There is no room between the pages or between the signatures. They are tightly bound and compressed together to make a snug little package that will protect whatever it is on the inside, whether it's Little Women or Poe. That is the purpose of a classically bound book, is to protect the text block on the inside, and that's the main focus. Now, a book that is bound like a junk journal, like this one, is going to be different because room is going to be left between the signatures when they are sewn together. The signatures are not sewn together on their own. They are 99.9% of the time sewn to some kind of a spine backing that allows the bookbinder to space the signatures in a way that leaves some space in between the signatures so that things can be added in, whether it's photographs or concert tickets, artwork, memorabilia, ephemera of some kind. Room is left to be able to add those in. So when you see a junk journal of some kind, most of the time it's going to be wider at the spine than it is at the foredge. And that is a good thing because then that will allow for additional things to be added into the book without it putting stress on the binding. So if you get it and the book is like this and it's this wide at the foredge, but the spine has twice as much width on this side, there's quite a bit of things that can be added to the pages, inside and between the pages, before it becomes this cumbersome alligator mouth thing that you can't even write in anymore because you open it up and stuff falls out, and we've all been there. Just like this book, even though it is comprised of pages that are mostly blank, there is still room left in between the signatures that you can barely see. I didn't bind this one too loosely, but you can still see that it is definitely wider down here at the spine than it is at the foredge. So there is room for things to be added in between the pages. And that's why when a book has not been bound for the specific purpose of adding things to it, it will become misshapen pretty quickly. There's no room, there's no leeway for the spine to allow for anything else to be added in between those pages. So it will become cumbersome pretty quick, and it will start to put stress on the binding and on the stitches, because the stitches were made to hold the text block, but not really made to allow for anything else to be put inside the book. When room is left in between those signatures, then it doesn't put stress on those stitches until way too much stuff, whatever, is added to the book. It would take a lot more before that binding was compromised, because it was bound with that extra allowance to house extra things besides just the pages that were originally put into the book. If you think about a photo album, if you've ever bought a photo album, usually they too are shaped somewhat like this when you get them. The spine is quite a bit wider than the foredge, because the maker of this album knew that you were going to be putting photographs in it, and so hence the ring binder, because then that will allow for those inside photo keeper pages to rest wherever they need to rest, depending on how many photos you put in on the inside. In a similar thought process is put into making a junk journal or an art journal. We want to bind it in a way to allow for other things to be added in between the pages, and not just protect the pages themselves, but be adaptable for those additions. So whether you are binding a book in a junk journal or a scrapbook album style, or you are binding a text block that is just made for writing, or perhaps it is a book that has been written, both of these methods have merit and serve the purpose for the user. If you are a person who is going to be bookbinding for the purpose of journaling and saving memorabilia or photographs, whatever it may be, you would want to bind it in a way like this, like a junk journal, because if you bound it like this, a traditionally bound book would be doing you less service than one that is bound with some elbow room in between the pages. On the other hand, if you're just going to be writing in a book and you have no intention of adding anything else into the book except for ink, then binding empty pages in a traditional way may be the way to go, depending on how you want the book to look in the end. The covers will be a little bit different as far as aesthetics go, because of the way that the spine and the text blocks are shaped. A junk journal style book will be hard pressed to look something like this, like a traditionally bound book, because it's not put into a book press. Once it's bound, you can skip that part. So this has more of a, snug little package kind of a feel, while a junk journal, you can definitely see the difference and feel the difference. It is I don't really know the adjective that I would use, but I would say maybe it's a less formal, a less austere type of binding, because we need to allow for the user to adapt the book to their purpose. I hope this video helped answer some questions about the differences between the two methods of binding and why we need those differences, why they are crucial to have those differences, and the merit of both styles depending on the project you are tackling. I hope everybody is doing well. It was great to see you guys. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you really, really soon in the next video. Bye, guys.